Hi, welcome to the Coaching Game. I'm Laurie Lawson, and I'm going to bet today is Coaching Creating Change.
And I'm Terry Yoffe. You can always find us here on a Tuesday evening.
Yes, you can. Creating change. That's the goal. Yes.
Yeah. Hopefully creating change and imparting what we think
And
will
inspiring and
imparting,
all
inspiring.
that stuff. Yeah.
That will help you perhaps look at things in a different way and create change in your life.
Hopefully. So you know what we looked at the month and we said, okay, last month we did change actually because it was New Year's and resolutions, and so we said, what can we do in February? So we're looking and we're going, President's Day and Valentine's Day. So don't ask us. This will tell you how our mind works. We came up with leadership, but I think we based it on, okay, a lot of cool presidents were born in February and that we celebrate. And it's like leading versus management. And then we'll throw in a little kindness and compassion and all that stuff to cover Valentine's Day. Yeah.
So whereas last year we had very specific topics every time we met, this year we're just picking different topics that we think would be of interest for both personally and obviously professionally and business-wise. And I think leadership is a really big, huge topic that we could spend the next 8 months talking about.
Absolutely. different aspects.
We only have our half hour today. So we tossed around leadership. What is leadership in today's world of, and I always go back to the acronym or the VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world that we live in. And I think leadership takes on a very, very different complexion than it did a while ago. And what's expected of leaders today versus what was, and what comes into play to be a excellent leader.
Yeah, and I was trying to think, well, when did it turn? When did it turn from management to leadership? And I don't know. I know that more and more the emphasis is on EI and emotional intelligence, and suddenly it's important to manage, of course. But Terry had some. I don't know if it's important to manage people. What do you think?
Yeah. So there was an article that I read on one of my social media sites by someone named Steve Keating. And he wrote a very interesting article on helping the next generation of leaders develop themselves. And he really went into what's the difference between leadership and management, and is there a difference? And where people, I think, will amalgamate and combine both and use both simultaneously, and, he's a leader, he's a manager, and what is the difference, and not to be confused by the two.
Yeah. And that's it, I think. And I said, and then Terry said, well, I don't even know if it's that, but I'm thinking management is taking a second seat to leadership, because management can be taught, and as can leadership, but management is keeping track of details. Leadership is bringing it all together and making it happen. Management is like keeping a tight rein on it, and leadership's letting it go and trusting other people, I think.
Well, yes, and how Steve Keating talks about it. He said, when we think of managing, he talks about managing things, like we manage budgets, we manage buildings, we manage inventories, and things don't care if you're caring. Things don't care, if you're abusive. Things don't care if you're ethical. And when we shift to leadership, that's about human beings. And how are you leading people? People resist being managed, he talks about, but people like being led. And there's a difference between the two. And, you know, I find it really fascinating because I think people have interchanged them.
I think they have, and I think if we were having a contest, I think leadership's winning because people are realizing that, and I don't know, I want to compare it to, and I'm not sure it's a perfect comparison, but I want to compare it to feed a man a fish, and or teach him, or and you feed him for the day.
Right.
Teach him how to fish, and then his life is his own, and he can go on his own way.
Exactly.
In the points of view, there is a leadership card, and there's a Sufi tale where a small lion cub got lost and was raised by a group of sheep, and he had no way of knowing he wasn't a sheep. He has no mirror, and he doesn't know, so he would eat only grass and follow the sheep in the herd, and be aware of who's going to who's danger to him, and even there was no roaring. And then one day a large lion came up, and everybody started running, and he ran too. He was scared. He thought he was a sheep. And finally, the lion caught up to the baby. The baby thought he was a lamb, but a baby lion. Right. And he said, "Come with me. Come with me. I want to take you." And he took him to the river, and he showed him his mirror image, and there were two lions there. And suddenly, the baby cub roared to the mountaintops. And the senior lion said, "Okay, I've done my job. That's all I can do." And that's kind of where I'm seeing leadership. It's like, okay, I'm leading you. It's up to you now. I'm going to give you the guidelines. I'm going to maybe mirror and parrot what you should be doing and pass it on down.
Well, that's very interesting. And I agree absolutely that emotional intelligence, which are the soft skills, right, rather than the hard skills, which a lot of leaders, if you go back and look at companies that failed, and we could name a lot of big companies that failed, their leadership was only based on hard skills. They did not have any, which was part of it. It was the times, but they didn't have any of the soft skills of communication, of integrity, of self-awareness, of communication, which is obviously the biggest factor in leadership. And how do you lead somebody and communicate to them and being open to them by not micromanaging them and watching over them all the time, and entrusting trust and integrity that when you give them a mandate or a vision of a big picture, that they can go and do it. However, you still want to be there, right, to ensure that whatever they do is fitting in with the big picture of the company.
And you know what, that's interesting, because I think maybe a part of leadership is setting the parameters, setting the foundation, setting the goal, and then saying, here's your goal. Here's some ways you can get there, but go for it, I'm going to lead you, and I'll be there if you need me, but go for it and see what happens. That's when I was in the business. That's what I did. It was like I don't like micromanagement, and I don't think anybody does. Well, I guess maybe there are some people who really want guidance every step of the way. I'm not one of them.
I think more and more people are resenting that, because that's managing.
Yes, exactly.
When you are all over somebody and you don't give them the chance to shine, and you don't trust them. When I work with clients, one of the things that they come to me is they're not good at delegating, whereas they put something off to somebody and they let them do it. They have great fear of they're not going to do it right, they're not going to do it my way, instead of delegating and giving them parameters and telling them the vision or what's needed, and having them go and figure it out.
Right.
In whatever way is the best way for them to get it done.
Yeah. And I don't know if that comes from, with the micromanagement, I don't know if that comes from insecurity, or I think insecurity's got to play a role in it. What do you think?
I think that's true. I think that is part of it. But again, I think today's business landscape is very different, given this VUCA world in a lot of uncertainty. And people that are delegating, they fear it not getting done right, whatever right means. And therefore, the onus is on them, that whoever their higher-ups are going to look at them. So that's a fear. Well, what if I don't do it right? What if it's not what is wanted? What if I get fired? So I think that's part of that. Also, they're probably control freaks. You know, I understand that. I am one in uncertain levels, but it's wanting to get it done. And if you hand off a project to someone, you don't control what's getting done. So the micromanaging is a way of controlling and ensuring that it gets done. However, it doesn't take into account the person that's being micromanaged and controlled, where they feel they're in a vice.
You have made such an interesting point, because you're right. It's good to say, okay, leadership, and this is how you lead down. But there's also a lead up, you know, and that, I think, sometimes middle management or even management finds themselves, top management finds themselves in the sandwich, you know, in the cookie, the Oreo cookie, because you're always reporting to someone else. So it's like, how much faith do you have in your ability to lead as opposed to in your ability to manage?
And that's called managing up.
Yes. Yes.
So there's always, if you're not the top person, that, you know, unless you have a board of directors, right? Or somebody you have to report into, if you're not the lead dog, then you're always managing up to someone, and you know, and you're managing down, and there's an up and a down, and it's, you want to, if you're looking, you know, at the people that work with you, how do you let them do their thing and make sure that it gets done? So when you manage up and report to the person above you, that you come bearing fruits of the labor.
Exactly.
Rather than failures, you know? And I think that, again, in today's world, people are afraid of making mistakes. And we all make mistakes. One mistake isn't going to get you fired.
Hopefully. I mean, and if it does, then you're probably working in the wrong place.
So there's always, I think, that, because things are moving so quickly today. There's, I don't know how much forgiveness there is in today's world of business. And the new generation of millennials coming in, they have a whole different perspective on the work environment and what's expected. You know, no longer are people spending 50 years in a company and walking away with a gold watch.
There's not a lot of loyalty. That's not a value that is you know, that's encouraged, you know. It's just not.
And it's not even looked upon with admirability.
No.
You know, if you get in front of someone, you're looking for a job, and you've been in a company for 20 years, and they
used to be an easy in. Okay, you got the job. Now it's like, what's wrong with you?
Right, exactly. You know, well, 20 years. Wow. Yes, there's loyalty there, but the world's moved on. And if you've not moved, or even, I mean, okay, if you've moved up, certainly within a country, if you started at ground level and now you're president, that's a whole different story.
Absolutely.
But if you haven't moved that much, that also indicates this is somebody that likes comfort and doesn't want to take risks.
I'm not a risk taker, absolutely,
So it's a catch-22 in today's world of business.
It's so interesting. Okay, so what are some of the qualities of leadership? One is taking a risk, I guess, right?
Definitely. You know, I do the DISC profile with clients, and the D, the I, the S, and the C all mean, and D is dominance, which is somebody with a high D has the ability to get in and make things happen, even with a environment that's not easygoing, right? That they take risks. They're willing to be a risk taker, to get out there, to get results. These are people that know how to get results, no matter how they do it.
Right.
They can figure it out.
Okay.
And that is part of a leadership quality as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, the other thing, and we can spend hours on this, is being a leader is also about influencing and persuading others to get the job done.
And that's good, because how do you get people on your page if you're telling them you can demand they go there, and then you have to create fences and guidelines and disciplinary, or you can have them buy in. And I think that's the leadership too. It's like, how do you get someone on your team? You know, it's like
exactly. And here comes into a ICF core competency: trust.
Yes. Yeah.
Trust, intimacy, integrity.
Yeah.
And allowing yourself to be vulnerable.
That's your favorite word, and I agree. I agree. You're absolutely right.
When people see a leader that has these soft skills, right, they are willing to follow and to be led.
Right.
Because there's a trusting factor. They're cared about. We get to now the caring and the kindness.
Maybe we're into Valentine's Day now. I don't know.
Right. Which comes under the umbrella of love, which we're not using in the sense of a personal.
We don't need candy and flowers, but
no.
love,
It's caring about others. You know, it's self-aware, it's self-manage, and it's others aware and others manage.
Yeah.
So when a leader, I think, shows the soft skills, people are more willing to be led and to trust, rather than somebody that says, it's my way, it's the highway, this is how we're doing it, and they don't have any caring for their people. Because let's face it, in today's business landscape, people are their biggest assets.
Yeah, really.
So I think, you know, it's how you show up as a leader.
And I think the vulnerability part, if you have someone who's above you and they never make a mistake and they have all the rules and they're keeping their eye on you, then I don't know if you're going to buy in. You might do a good job if that's your atmosphere, but if you have someone who goes, I just screwed up, man, then you're going to be more willing to go, you know what, I did too. And it's like, tell me, how can we make this better?
Exactly.
But if you have someone who has all the answers and has the whip and is micromanaging, then you're not going to cop, and you're going to cover up things, and it's the good is lost because you're busy protecting yourself and you're busy keeping your image. Oh yeah, I know everything too. I never make a mistake. And like you said, we all make mistakes. You know, that's how we learn.
Exactly. And when you're feeling like, you know, this comes to another word called perfection, which is unattainable. You know, but if you're working for someone that is micromanaging and not showing you what leadership quality means, I think that you resent not only the person but your role, because you're being marginalized. You're not being allowed to flourish and to grow and to kind of find your way. Based on what we've talked about and the fears. Oh my God, if going into an environment where, what if I make a mistake, and what if I do? There's a lot of pressure that comes with that.
Absolutely. And it was funny, I was just saying, well, what do you do if indeed you do have a boss who's a micromanager? And I guess it's going to go down to individuality. It's like, how can you lead yourself? and probably lead yourself to another job. But
Right, exactly. I think.
But if there's something that you don't know, or there's something that you need, you can do that on yourself too. You can lead yourself to success, and then take that wherever you want to take it. Right.
That's one way, and yes, that's an option. Others are to try and have some direct communication with.
She's just throwing those ICF competencies in there.
But they go across lines with your boss, and perhaps taking a risk and talking to them and saying, "Hey, Joe, while I value what you're saying and blah, blah, blah. Is there a way that we can figure a way that I can do the job and you can trust me?" So there's that. That's possible.
Right.
Not sure where that goes. But if that doesn't work, 'cause today people don't want to, especially younger people, they don't want to be in situations where they experience every day a stomach ache going to work. They're going to look for other things.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing to me how many clients I have had that have horrible bosses that they hate going in every day, because bosses have insecurities, and they want to manipulate, and that's their way of controlling.
Absolutely.
And because they're afraid themselves.
Right.
So, it puts an employee on a playing field that they might not want to be on if they're not growing and flourishing and thriving and nurturing.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely,
they can go to HR.
Maybe,
And that's a dangerous place to go. It depends on who HR is and what they can do to either make a complaint. So if enough complaints pile up, then it goes to that person's boss, and they could get called on the carpet, which I had a client that did fabulously with her job, but they would get her people that she worked with were complaining about her, and they were going to let her go because of her behavior.
Right.
And she had to very quickly figure out how to shift that.
And that, I think, and that just speaks to the trend of the time, because it's like, yes, you may be doing a fantastic job, but if I'm getting complaints from your team members all day long, I don't care how good a job you are.
That's exactly
You're creating problems for me. But another way you could play up to the ego if you want to lead yourself and just go, "Hey, Joe, I love how you can take a situation and just assess it and say, here's the need. Could you show me how to do that?"
Right.
Very rarely is a guy going to go, "No." Maybe.
But that's a great ploy.
Yes, exactly.
A way of buying into this person's ego and stroking it in a way that...
And telling him it's okay, I'm not trying to take your job, but I do want to learn,
Right, that you want to learn from this person and what are pointers, and that's stroking someone's ego, and that's another great
which we all
tack.
need. We all need a little stroking every now and then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it depends on how receptive your boss is. And, they may not want to be party to this.
Right. It's like, I don't have time to teach you anything.
Right. Or they may fear, or they may see what's going on.
Trying to take my job,
Or, what are you trying to do here? Because they're, kind of suspicious of everything.
Yeah.
It just depends, I think, on situations, and managers and leaders can be the same job, or alternatively they could be different.
Right.
And understanding the two, I found the article really fascinating, because you always thought of them as synonymous.
Yeah, and it's changing, and I think it's definitely changing for the better. I think maybe the first step would be to decide on an individual basis. It's like, where are you? Where is it that you want to go, and who's your mentor? Who and you can always ask somebody to be your mentor.
Right, to find a mentor who in the company you can have as a mentor to help guide you.
Right.
But I think more and more, as you were, saying, the landscape of companies are changing, especially with the whole Me Too movement as part of it. It's not the whole picture, but the microscope is there for companies to start doing the right thing with the people that work there. And even though there are those companies that are still following the hard skills and not a lot of the soft skills, I think more and more companies, the more that this whole emotional intelligence has come into the fold, and Daniel Goleman and some of the others that are writing books and doing talks about emotional intelligence, I think it has been and is becoming front and center.
And truthfully, even the companies that aren't touchy-feely emotional intelligence, they're realizing that employees are investments. You take a lot of time interviewing, finding the person, recruiting, training, and it's like, so you rather than do that every month, when somebody's dropping out, I think they're saying, how can we, from a business point, how can we enhance our investment? How can we capitalize on our investments?
Yeah, and that's
It's
great.
not micromanaging. It's
No,
leading.
but
Yeah.
that is great for more and more companies to be seeing employees as assets and investments rather than pieces of chattel.
Exactly.
Because in the long run, the more companies have revolving doors of people leaving, the less healthy the company will become, because more and more people will hear about it and will not want to continue, will not want to go to that company. So they will not be hiring top talent.
Right.
They won't be getting that. They may be
And
getting bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, and eventually, who knows
Right.
what will happen? And it's
Right.
But yeah, so I think the challenge is out there. It's out there on a company level, and it's out there on an individual level.
Exactly.
And if you can fit yourself into the groove, hey,
Great.
and then you're really going to
Wow.
excel and move on up. So
So this has been great. The question I ask, how are you demonstrating your leadership
Right.
in whatever you're doing? And take that to heart and think about it and really assess, where are you on that scale?
and where do you want to be, and who can help you get there?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think it's I think it's something, and I think it's a good way to start out a new year.
It is. So this has been great. I love it. And
Me too.
We
and
will
we will be back in March, and who knows what we'll be
topic.
doing.
Good night.
Thank you.